Hi, I'm Emily Ratajkowski, and I'm endorsing Bernie Sanders for president. I'm 28. I'm a millennial, a true millennial. I think one of the things that's so interesting about young people supporting Bernie Sanders is that he's not like a young, sexy candidate. What he says speaks so much to what people want that sort of who he is, it's so much beyond just one man. Bernie is extremely genuine, he's consistent, he's powerful, not because of who he is as one person, but because of the way that he invigorates people and excites them and brings together this movement. So when Bernie sort of popped up on the radar as this guy who had been arrested in the 60s and had been consistent in his policies, not only has he always advocated for healthcare, he's also always been on the right side as far as civil and humanitarian issues.
Who is going to be speaking out for people who need someone to speak out for them?
It just was like, this is our man.
So what you just heard there was Emily Ratajkowski endorsing Bernie Sanders for president. What a day for endorsements for Bernie. Earlier today, the Sunrise Movement endorsed him, which is a movement of young people fighting for climate, social, and economic justice. And in some ways, the Emily Ratajkowski endorsement comes from a similar spirit, because even though the Sunrise Movement is a group of thousands of young people, and Emily Ratajkowski is one famous model, they bring a similar youth-led concern for the future and a belief that Bernie Sanders is the one to help them achieve their goals and fight their fears. That's why both of these endorsements really fittingly come on the same day. So you might look at these types of endorsements, celebrity endorsements, and scoff at them and say, who cares? Why does it matter? Isn't this fluff politics? But at the end of the day, I really don't think it is fluff politics. On the pragmatic side of it all, Emily Ratajkowski has millions and millions of followers on social media. Her Instagram account is one of the world's biggest Instagram accounts. Without a doubt, her endorsement will bring intense amounts of traffic and attention to Bernie Sanders, and maybe from the sorts of people that aren't always directly politically engaged. You cannot underestimate the potential value of someone like Ratajkowski endorsing Bernie Sanders and helping to promote him on her very, very large social media platforms. But it carries more weight than that because Ratajkowski's really genuine. I don't think this is a throwaway thing for her. I think she really believes in this. She really believes in social justice causes, and she really believes in Bernie Sanders. And she speaks here in a representative way. Sure, she's a famous model, travels the world, one of the world's most well-known models, likely has much more money than most people could ever dream to have. But on the other hand, she is a young person. She understands the sort of concerns that young people on social and economic and environmental issues have with the path that America and the world is going down. And she sees Bernie Sanders as the one to change the course for the better. And this is really fascinating because much like with the Sunrise Movement, it would seem that the Ratajkowski-Bernie matchup is a mismatch. Why would such young voters, such young Americans, support someone like Bernie Sanders, the oldest person in the race? And as Ratajkowski notes, it's not that Bernie is young and sexy and polished in all the ways a politician could or should be. There are people like Pete Buttigieg, if you want the slick, polished young politician. But Bernie Sanders is attracting the attention of young people and young people's movements precisely because of his political authenticity and his political consistency. And Ratajkowski notes that here very eloquently and very succinctly when she says he has always been on the right side of history. On environmental issues, on social issues, on civil rights, whatever it is, Bernie Sanders is the guy. For young people, he's our guy. He's the one that we know is going to take the right stand. And we know he's going to take the right stand because he's always done it. And importantly, he hasn't just taken the right stand at the right times for a political opportunist. Bernie Sanders has taken the right stand even when the right stand to take was politically disadvantageous, when you stood with certain marginalized groups at a time where they were very unpopular with the average voter, with the rest of Washington, with the entire Democratic and Republican parties. And you stood with those people, and you stood with those concepts, and you stood with those issues, waiting for the rest of the world to catch up to you. And you were vindicated because you were right even when it was unpopular to be right. And you know people like that, more often than not, the stands they're taking now are the ones that are going to be seen increasingly as the common sense, good decisions to make 20 years from now. But why wait? Why pick a Democrat who's going to be wrong now and evolve 15, 20 years from now when we can just pick the guy who was right 20 years ago, who's right now, and who will be right 20 years from now in Bernie Sanders? And I think increasingly a lot of young people, again, movement-based and individuals, are really seeing the value of a Bernie Sanders candidacy and a Bernie Sanders presidency. Young people look forward, but young people aren't ignorant about history. They understand that history defines who Bernie Sanders is, what he's fought for, what he believes, and what he will continue to fight for and continue to believe in. And I think that this endorsement from Ratajkowski, combined with the earlier endorsement of the Sunrise Movement, is a perfect combination demonstration of how young people are lining up behind Bernie Sanders. And if young people continue to line up behind him and they get to the polls and they talk to their friends and they talk to their families and they talk to people in their community, that I don't think anyone's going to stop Bernie Sanders and this movement from not only winning the primary, but winning the presidency and making real lasting change for the better for all Americans, of course. But because young people have to live longer with the world we're forging right now, it will benefit them most of all. That's why there's such urgency from young people. So don't sleep on this endorsement, guys. Ratajkowski is a bright young woman. She has an immense following. She has her convictions. She backed Bernie last time. She's backing him this time. This will be a massive endorsement for Bernie Sanders, and I can't wait to see how many new people it brings to Bernie Sanders and his movement.